My name is Yula, and I am an artist and filmmaker in Toronto. I am also an Israeli citizen. I left Israel 23 years ago, and I've been living in Canada ever since. This is my Israeli passport. Here's my Israeli ID. And Army exemption card. I didn't serve in the Army. Last week, I submitted an application to renounce my Israeli citizenship in the consulate here in Toronto. It wasn't a decision I made lightly. I've been thinking about it for a long time. In fact, from the moment I learned about the real history of the place where I grew up, the history that wasn't taught to us in schools or even talked about while I was living there, until last week at the consulate, it's been a really long process that took 2 decades. Yes, I did it in response to Israel's horrific assault on Gaza. But since this isn't the first time that Israel is bombing Gaza, why now? Why this moment? Because the amount of casualties has reached catastrophic proportions, and even though we're in a temporary ceasefire or pause or whatever you want to call it right now, it seems like it's not going to end anytime soon. Whether Israel realizes it or not, all this death harms its own people as well. During my childhood in Israel, I lived through 2 major wars. One of them was the First Gulf War, 2 intifadas, Palestinian uprisings, 26 suicide bombings, one of which I witnessed myself. And my town that was located on the Lebanese border was bombed every other day throughout my entire childhood. I participated in dozens of drills. I learned to differentiate between outgoing and incoming rocket fire, just so I can stay in bed a few more minutes. And throughout all of that, the messaging on the news and in newspapers and everywhere around us was that this is normal. This is because we're Jews and everyone around us wants to annihilate us. Why am I doing this now? Because more than ever, it's clear to me now that in Israel, peace is not the goal. I feel like it's the kind of state that doesn't care about its own people. And I'm not even talking about all the torture, abuse, and humiliation inflicted upon Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza, or Palestinians with Israeli citizenship that Israel loves to use as some sort of proof that it's not an apartheid state. I'm talking about the way Israel treats its own people as an entity that is built on hierarchies, where a person's value and humanity are tied directly to their identity. In this kind of society where people are categorized and placed within a hierarchy like that, abuse and bullying are how people tap into their own sense of superiority and entitlement and assert themselves. When I refused to serve in the Army at age 18, it wasn't because of any sort of political awareness. I was living in a small town and I had no idea what I was doing. It was because I recognized the violent, macho energy that I remembered from the bullies of my childhood. I recognized it in this new system that I was expected to serve, and I felt my entire being resist it. I traveled through the West Bank with my Canadian passport. I went through the checkpoints. I saw the soldiers and how they treat people depending on where they're from. I saw the double sets of roads, one for Jewish Israelis and one for Palestinians. And throughout all of that, the people I met were nothing but kind to me. And when I crossed the border back to Israel and I watched the news, they were talking about the same people who were feeding me and helping me find my way as irrational, heartless animals that want to kill me. I'm actually surprised that it took me this many years to get to this point, and I was a little bit embarrassed. But I think I know why it took me so long. Israel spends so much time and money inciting its own people against each other, family members, friends, neighbors. This decision is going to affect my life, my ability to visit the place where I grew up. It's going to affect my relationship with my family, my relationships with the people closest to me. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to be part of it. But this decision is necessary. I'm done. I hope that it will send a message, and I hope that other people in my position will consider doing the same.